The scope of work is determined not by the client, not by the realtor, not by the homeowner, but only by the appraiser.
Originating from deep inside the Rocky Mountains, transported through the power of the internet, and arriving inside your tiny earbuds. It's the Appraiser Coach Podcast.
Minisode.
All right. Welcome to another mini-sode. Dustin Harris, the Appraiser Coach, hanging out with you. I want to talk to you a little bit about scope of work today. Maybe in a little different manner than you're used to it being spoken of. I want to pause here, of course, right up front. Remind you that we are sponsored by a great company. God, great company. I was actually just reaching out yesterday to Marty at ANOW. I tell you, folks, this is a company that responds to its customers. Great company. If you have not checked them out lately, please do so. anow.com. Again, it's anow.com. I want to tell you a brief story to set this up today. This is going to be a quick one today. Probably just more of a reminder to most of you than anything else. And this has to do with scope of work and, more importantly, who is in charge? Who's in charge of that scope of work? Who directs the scope of work? I think we as appraisers, and I've surely been guilty of this, sometimes defer to our client. Don't do that. Absolutely don't do that. Sorry to rush to the punchline right up front, but let me set it up this way. We recently received an order in a fairly rural area, and the fee was nice, turn time very acceptable, great company we've done a lot of work for, one that you would recognize if I announce the name, which I won't, by the way. And we started doing the research. We do that up front, looking into what's going on. This was a purchase. We were able to pull up the MLS sheet. We were able to do a little research at the county level on zoning and what's allowed, what's not allowed. In the process of that level of investigation, this is long before the inspection. By the way, I should mention this was a rush order. Okay, that will play into the story as we roll along. And as we were doing the research, we realized that this parcel was very unique. I'm not going to give you all the nitty-gritty. It doesn't matter. Let's just use some hypotheticals. Hypothetically, this was a 1950s home on 3 acres in an area where 3 acres was fairly common, but so is an acre, and so is 5 acres, and so is 10 acres even. And as we look into this, the zoning allows a subdividable lot. Now, okay, no problem. We're trained in that. No issues, right? But as we look into this, we realize that the highest and best use is not as currently constituted. Now, let me be very clear. Currently, in its situation, this is a single-family home on 3 acres, okay? But the highest and best use is to subdivide out, let's say, an acre of that land and sell it off separately as a building lot and still remain with 2 acres. Zoning allows it. The lot size qualifications still fit with both the acre and the 2 acres. And indeed, that's exactly what's going on. As we look into the contract, we realize that this is being purchased in such a manner that the buyer not only is planning on subdividing the lot, but actually has already started the process at the county. Part of our research was to look into any deeds, any filings, anything that's going on with this property. And sure enough, there is an open application to subdivide the lot. Now, get this, from the buyer who is not yet the owner of the land. As we dug into it a little bit deeper with the county did confirm that, yes, indeed, the buyer had submitted an application. They indicated that it would, quote unquote, likely be granted. Okay, that is key in all of this. And that they were just waiting for the transfer to take place so that they could complete the process. Obviously, you can't subdivide a lot for somebody who does not own the property. But here is a process already started, already begun, where the buyer is truly buying this property because of the split. Now, let me be very clear. We had even gone so far as to research the comparables. We obviously have the purchase sale agreement. That was part of the documentation that was provided to us from the lender, the client. We have the MLS sheet that clearly states that this can indeed be subdivided. By the way, that is kind of, even though it's not uncommon in this area, it's kind of an anomaly in the sense that that you would tout that, right? That this would be in such a manner that it's a big deal, especially right now with the growth that we are experiencing in this area. Okay, no problem. Okay, where do we go from here? Let me finish this story by saying to you that the purchase price, okay, we're talking price, not value. The purchase price very clearly is exceeding what a typical house on 3 acres would be by a great deal. In fact, about the same amount as an extra lot would add. In other words, the purchase price was darn close to what a home on 2 acres would be, plus a vacant building lot. Do you see where I'm going with this? In other words, it was probably well worth what these individuals were paying for it. But we as appraisers are kind of stuck in a place that is somewhere between a rock and a hard place, because we are asked to do the appraisal as is. And as is, it is a home with 3 acres. However, very clearly, this is being purchased as a home with 2 acres plus an additional acre building lot. Do you see the problem? We certainly saw the problem. And we went back to our client, explained the situation, and said, we really need to back out of this. Well, what do you mean back out of this? Well, we just need to do it as a residence. Yeah, that's great. That's wonderful. But remember, my obligation to the state, my obligation to my license, my obligation to my ethics and morality is that we do this to the highest and best use. Clearly, and I didn't say this to the client, but clearly this home and 2 acres plus an additional building lot acreage is worth what they are paying. However, it was as clear as day to me that this is going to come in value-wise, appraisal value-wise, lower than the purchase price, much lower than the purchase price, because we're supposed to appraise this thing as a home and 3 acres. But here's the big clincher. Here's the big problem. The client doesn't decide the scope of work. We do. Again, sorry to jump to the punchline. Sorry to answer the question in the title right up front. But folks, how often are we deferring to our clients when we need to take a stand, we need to be firm, and we need to say, damn the torpedoes, we don't care what this brings to us, we need to do the right thing here. Folks, the highest and best use of this property, as is, they asked us to do it as is, not as hypothetical. They did not ask us to do 2 appraisals, one with a house and 2 acres, and one with another building lot as a hypothetical, because it will indeed be parceled out. They asked us to do it as is. Well, folks, as is, it is a home on 3 acres that can and probably will be subdivided. It's legal, it's permissible, it's physically possible, and the highest value is to indeed do that very thing. Do you see the problem? I hope you see the problem. Because we have now gone from this being a typical single-family residence to either 2 appraisals done as hypothetical, which they didn't obviously want to do. This isn't a portfolio loan. Or we go to a highest and best use that is beyond the scope of work of a typical residential appraiser, and then goes into the scope of work of a commercial or certified general appraiser. Folks, we explained this to our client, and I'm going to tell you what they said when we get back from the break. I want to pause here and remind you that we are sponsored by ANOW Software. Folks, I reached out to Marty at ANOW just yesterday. One of my dream team members actually reached out to me and said, Dustin, can you reach out to Marty? There's something about ANOW I don't like. It was something minor. Some way that things showed up in the analytics side of things. And she asked me if I would reach out to Marty, and I did. Now, it hasn't been fixed yet. This was just yesterday. But I did reach out to Marty, and he immediately responded to me, said he was on it. Folks, this is the type of company that we're dealing with, because it was a company developed by appraisers. Marty is an appraiser, folks, for appraisers, for you, for me. More importantly, for appraiser business owners. That's really what it's all about. Check them out. Go to anow.com. Again, it's ANOW.com. All right, folks, welcome back to the mini-sode. Welcome back to the program. Dustin Harris hanging out with you. I set this up today by telling you a brief story, and not to recap that story, but just let's go to the punchline. The punchline is the client is telling me to do one thing, and I am insisting that that is not something that I will nor can do. But as I reach out to my peers and talk to them about the process of appraisal, there is a great need, and let's just state it plainly here, there's a great need to want to please our clients. I think that is just an innate human nature thing. And in the world of commerce, in the world of, hey, I would really like to keep working for you. I like what you pay. I like working with you. You're a great client, and I want to please you. We will bend over backward and do anything we possibly can to help our clients. And here's the key: within reason, within legality, within the law. Folks, are you being pushed around by your clients? Please don't. I am not going to lie to you. To reach out to this client and tell them that we cannot move forward on this. Remember, this is a rush order. They have a closing date. We've already sat on this 3 or 4 days as we did the research. We've already put them behind, right? There is a huge amount of pressure to please the client. There's a huge amount of pressure to say, oh, okay, we'll do it. Don't do it. Please remember that the scope of work is determined by the appraiser. You learn this every 2 years in your 7-hour USPAP update class. You learned this originally when you took the 15-hour USPAP class. USPAP is very clear. The scope of work is determined not by the client, not by the realtor, not by the homeowner, but only by the appraiser. That means there are times when you have to take a stand. I could tell you story after story after story where I had to kind of draw a line in the sand, kind of say, client, I love you, but no, not on this one. Go find somebody else that's willing to do this because I'm not. Now, do we risk losing some business over this? We do indeed. Will they make it obvious? Of course not. Of course not. Folks, I'll tell you another brief story as we close up today. This last year, I think it was in February, I had a company, I may have told this story. If I did, forgive me for telling it again, I'll make it brief. Had a company that after I turned in an appraisal was concerned about the value and came back with what they said were 3 or 4 comparable sales that they wanted me to put in the grid. Now, I took a look at these quote-unquote comparable sales, and they weren't comparable at all. You know what I'm talking about, where they pull something from a completely different neighborhood, superior in quality, superior in conditioning, and they're telling me that they're comparable sales. I absolutely disagreed, and I said to them, listen, these are not comparable sales. I can't put them in the grid. They said, do it anyway. Now, thankfully, this was not a big customer. This was not a big client, like the story that I told you about before the break, which is a big client. But I pushed back, and I said, listen, I'll put them in the addendum. I'll write them out, and I will indicate why I will not be willing to use them. I will be very specific. 123 Any Street was not used because it was in a superior neighborhood, is newer than the home, than the subject, is superior in quality in this manner, in that manner, is superior in condition in this manner, in that manner. And I'll lay that out for you. Well, that wasn't good enough for them. That was not good enough for them. They wanted me to put them in the grid. Well, folks, if you look at the 1004, as I did, it doesn't say sale 1, sale 2, sale 3, and sale 4. It says, you know it, you've seen it, comparable 1, comparable 2, comparable 3, and so on. And so I very politely, very professionally wrote back to the client and said, dear client, I love you, but if I put those in the grid, I believe it will be a misleading report because then I am then calling these comparable sales, and they are not. They are not in any way comparable to the subject. They are not in the same realm of a typical buyer, and therefore I won't do it. Now, again, I did it professionally. I didn't say it the way I'm saying it to you on the microphone. I didn't plant my heels in the ground and said, by hell, I'm not going to do this. I very professionally indicated that this is not something I'm willing to do. Thank you, but no thank you. Well, guess what, folks? Never received another order from them. Now, did they write to me and said, hey, if you're not going to do this, then I'm going to cut you off? Of course they didn't. They're not fools. They know that would be breaking violations, but they just silently went away. Folks, that is the risk we take. When you choose to be in business, you choose to either stand on morality and ethics or you choose not to. My opinion is I would choose to lose a few clients over the years rather than do things that I don't feel I'm capable, willing to do. Who is in charge of scope of work? You are, my friends. You are. Who's in charge of your business future? You are, and that's why you should join the All-Star team, folks. Check us out. Go to theappraisercoach.com/memberships. Folks, for a mere $49 a month, can I just tell you a few things that you get? First of all, access to me, access to our private Facebook group, a newsletter that is chock full. I mean, this is a 5,000-word newsletter with all kinds of marketing ideas and efficiency ideas, and we call it the 2-point conversion, which is just a couple of really helpful hints, tips, and tricks that can keep you motivated, can keep you on top of your business. You get that in both the digital version, full color digital version. By the way, it has cartoons in there. Yeah, I came up with them myself. They're really actually pretty good, I think. Maybe not. I think they're pretty funny. We have a funny photo every month, and it's also, of course, in the audio version, so you can listen as you drive around doing your comp photos. Not to mention a free access to our monthly meeting with the coach. That's with me and anybody else that wants to jump on. It's a live meeting. It's about 2 hours every month, and we talk about stuff that can absolutely change the way that you do business. Check us out. Again, $49 a month, folks. You can't beat it. Trust me. You will get way more value than you put in. It is the All-Star team, and you can find us at theappraisercoach.com.
You've been listening to the Appraiser Coach podcast with Dustin Harris. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and post a short review on iTunes. For more in-depth insider information on how you can make more money as a real estate appraiser, visit theappraisercoach.com and sign up for the All-Star team today. Thanks for joining us. And now, get out there and create some value.